Hi, Sophie. So good to see you again. Thank you so much for taking time for this conversation. Let's get underway in terms of, could you just talk about Gujarat started the season with two wins and then sort of three consecutive losses. When things like that happen, short tournament like WPL, how do team get back up, and like what kind of conversation that goes on within the team, especially with so many young Indian domestic players?
Yeah, I think for us it's been really consistent. I think some of the losses we had, we still actually played reasonably well, which is something that we can take a lot of positives out of, knowing that, yeah, we were close even though we weren't at our best. And I think that should hopefully give this group confidence. It was obviously nice to bounce back against the UP Warriors the other night. So for us, it's just making sure that we keep preparing as we have done and trust in our game plan. I think we've seen when we've been able to execute that, we've been a really tough side to beat. So I think for us, it's about keeping things nice and simple, keep backing our strengths, and yeah, we'll see where these next two group games go.
And for you personally, and as someone who's have as much as experience as you do, how do you adapt between the two drastic conditions in terms of Vadodara and Navi Mumbai, and uh, like especially passing down that information to other players in the team as well, from whatever you can gauge in terms of the pitch conditions and the pace at which you bat and building an innings compared to DY Patil and then this Baroda.
Well, in all honesty, I've probably asked more about from other players around the conditions. They've obviously played here a lot more than I have, so it's about having those conversations with players that have experienced these conditions more than I have and being able to adapt. I think, yeah, everyone has to be able to adjust and adapt to the different conditions. I think obviously they've been pretty different from what we experienced in Navi Mumbai and the wickets that we played on there. So it is, I guess it's about how we can make those adjustments as quickly as possible and what we think is going to be effective on these types of wickets. And I think we've seen across the games here in Baroda that you have to give yourself a little bit more time with the bat, and it's not probably going to be quite as high scoring as some of the totals we saw at DY Patil Stadium. So it is. It's just, I guess, adjusting expectations and being able to adapt your game in these different conditions.
And as a bowler, how much does it get, give you a little bit more breathing space on conditions like Baroda, where you can use your variations? Like what kind of changes you make from, say, bowling in DY Patil under lights with Dew coming in compared to Vadodara?
Yeah, it's certainly a lot nicer as a bowler. Bowling here in Baroda, obviously the wickets have been a little bit lower and slower than they were at DY Patil Stadium. So the option to bowl obviously a few more variations and stay on the stumps. I think that's been a key message throughout this whole tournament, though, regardless of the venue, is to keep the stumps in play. I guess the margin for error, though, was so small as a bowler at DY Patil Stadium. The wicket was so flat and so true that any miss was punished by the batters, whereas here in Baroda, yeah, there's probably a little bit more room for error, which is nice, but it's still being able to put the batters under as much pressure as possible and adjust to the conditions that you face each day.
And GG is a team that has a fair bit of Indian domestic talent that rely that the team relies on when taking the field, and most of them, a lot of them, uncapped as well, especially in the batting department. What kind of conversations that goes on in the background in terms of uh, how they sort of get their game to this level and then become match winners for the team and sort of upskill themselves as well. Obviously, since WPL came in, we have seen a significant change in the way players have understanding the need to upskill in different areas of the game. But how do you look at that aspect from the time you were from there in the first starting of WPL to now?
Yeah, I think that's something that Maxi Klinger, the head coach here, has done really well, is, I guess, integrate the domestic players with the international players. And I think you've seen with our batting order that having the local talent, yes, interspersed between the international players is something that I think's a huge advantage. Being able to bat alongside them, I guess it's the best learning tool, is to be able to be out in the middle, to go through, I guess, game situations as it happens and to have those conversations and then to be able to go back and reflect on it at a later time is really important. But that's where this competition's been so great, is exposing not only the local Indian players, but also the overseas players to these conditions and what works over here. Obviously, the local players have played here a lot more and have faced a lot of the opposition players. So it's being able to lean on them and their knowledge as an overseas player. But likewise, I think for us, it's key that we share our experiences of game situations and game awareness and how we go about that. So it's certainly a two-way street in terms of the communication around it.
And in terms of the skill levels of the players and the player pool itself, what you have seen, say, in 2023 to now, and how much players have understood their game better in terms of upskilling themselves? Like, how do you look at the pool of talent pool as well as the skill level of players, young uncapped players coming through?
Oh, look, it's really exciting to see the talent that is coming through. And even since the inception of the WPL a couple of years ago, the growth in the skill set has certainly improved. I think, the power game is something that I've been really impressed with. Seeing players that can clear the rope pretty easy now is always a really exciting part. I think the bowlers as well are starting to add more strings to their bow in terms of different variations and being able to adapt and adjust to different conditions. I think it's more than that, though. I think it's the training off the field, I think, where there's still a lot of room to grow in terms of the professional attitude and the work ethic that's required to step up to the next level. And hopefully, these young local domestic players are seeing that, sort of rubbing shoulders with these overseas players and seeing how they train away from games and how much work needs to be put in to make sure you're at the top of your game is something that I think is only going to improve over time.
And you've spoken about the boundary dimensions in WPL as well. I remember in 2023, there were a fair bit of sixes that were like 49, 50-meter sixes behind square through fine leg. And it became a sort of a debating point as well. But how do you look at, with the way the power game, as you said, is changing, how do you look at the ways to take forward in terms of the women's game, taking forward and further steps to bring in rather going forward in terms of the growth of the league as well as the players?
Oh, I think certainly needs to be conversations, not just at this tournament, but at the international level as well, in terms of moving to align with the men's game and having five fielders out. I think we're very close to that stage now that I guess the balance of the game probably requires it. I think some of the scores that we saw early on in this tournament probably showed that the power game is continuing to grow in the women's side of things. So I think five fielders out is a discussion that needs to be had. Likewise with the boundary sizes too. Yes, it's probably increased slightly from the first WPL, but I still feel like they are on the very small side when you compare it to international cricket. So for me, I think it's a discussion that needs to be had, on reflecting on this tournament and moving forward, because I think not only, I guess, does it reflect the improvement that's been made in the women's game in terms of the power side of things, but it's also other elements in terms of skill level, being able to hit the gaps, being able to run between the wickets, which is an incredibly important part of the game that, if you're only scoring singles and boundaries, there's not too much room to gap the ball or twos, threes and have that match awareness. So, I certainly think that a serious discussion needs to be had around boundary sizes and fields outside the ring.
And the league itself is in a very interesting stage in terms of this season with multiple teams in similar points where net run rate becomes a huge factor as well. And every match becomes sort of a virtual knockout of sorts. How has been the team environment with Gujarat and to take it forward? And does it help that you're playing in the backyard rather in Gujarat itself?
Yeah, I certainly think it's really nice to be able to play these last few games at home. The support we've had's been unbelievable, and you feel really well supported here playing in Baroda with the home fans, the Orange Army behind us. I think it is, though. It's really exciting that the tournament is as close as it is. As you say, it pretty much is knockout games now, and that provides opportunities for players to step up and to play under pressure. So, great thing about this team is we've stayed really calm and really focused on what we can control. We know that if we win the next two games, we're a good chance of making that top three spot. So that's all we can control. We can't really worry too much about other teams or other results. So that's where our focus lies.
This weekend, two orange teams sort of won the BBL as well as SA20 title. Gujarat, you were there with the WBBL final as well with Perth. could this be the year of Orange Army of sorts?
Yeah, I certainly hope so. It's obviously a great colour, orange. Obviously, spent a fair bit of time playing in the orange kit, but yeah, I certainly hope so. I think, the Perth Scorchers men did a fantastic job. Obviously, the women obviously made it to the final as well, and hopefully the Gujarat Giants can be thereabouts as well.
And last question before I let you go, just in terms of Ash Gardner and captaincy, you've been a captain for different teams in different leagues at the highest level. How has been your experience of working with her, and what's something, it's always a give and take, as you say, like how has been for you to, play under Gardner and like the things that you have taken note of?
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Ash's captaincy. I think her ability to communicate with the local players has been spot on. I think it's always going to be a challenge, an overseas captain coming into an Indian tournament and being able to, lead that way. But I thought she's done a great job. I think she's obviously very much a lead from the front with her own performances, which I think it doesn't matter where you're from or what competition you're playing. And if you can lead from the front with your own performances, it certainly helps, I guess, inspire the rest of the group. But yeah, I've been really impressed with the way that she's led herself, this group, and has made some very good, smart, tactical decisions out when we've had some pretty pressure moments. So it's been cool. Obviously, having played a lot against Ash for a fair period of time now, it's nice to be able to play alongside her and play underneath her as her as captain.
And someone like, Kashi Gautam as well, who's sort of, she's been in the system for a while, but she's sort of coming to her own. And then how do you look at someone like Kashi Gautam, who aspires to be a genuine all-rounder, but he's also like, bowling is sort of a predominant role right now, like very similar to sort of way back when you started. How do you look at her as a prospect in terms of what she brings to the table?
Yeah, I think Cashia's got so much potential, and the thing I really like about her is her work ethic and her desire to get better. I think that's going to hold her in really good stead. She's always training incredibly hard, whether that's in the nets, whether it's at the gym, whether it's working on her fitness. I think that's something that has been really impressive to me is that desire to want to get better. And I think, being able to play alongside her and see the skills that she has, and she's got a real competitive streak too, which I think is a really important thing to have, I guess, as a player. And I'm sure that she'll have great success. And when her time comes, obviously she's been named in the Indian side for the Tour to Australia. I think, she's going to continue to get better and better. And as you say, she's more of a bowler at the moment, but having seen what she can do with the bat, I think she can be a real threat with the bat in hand as well.
Thank you so much, and wishing you all the best for the rest of the season.
Thank you.